Current temperature at the moment is minus 7.6. And I need to timestamp this thermograph.
Climate is notoriously noisy. I mean, you have warm years, cold years. We're having a relatively cold year at the moment, and everybody's saying, has global warming stopped? Again, we don't, as scientists, take a single year seriously. We know that there are fluctuations in temperature. We have warm years, we have cold years. It's not something you can draw any conclusions from. What we have to look at are trends over decades.
There's a 1 degree change in the mean temperature here at Scott Base over the last 50 years.
It's often almost like detective work. You have to kind of try and tease apart the different competing factors that might be affecting the world and try and identify the things that matter from the things that are incidental. And that's a really interesting problem.
One of the principal things we're known for is the development of the global temperature record, which we started in the early 1980s. This involved putting together all the records of temperature from around the world, from the land areas and from the oceans.
Well, one thing we get in each month is data from the Met Services through the UK Met Office. This is one for the South Pole, and we have here the temperatures, the pressures and the wind speeds. The average temperature for October 2008 at the South Pole was minus 51.5 degrees Celsius.
We've put all these records together and we can get a coverage during the 1950s and 60s and onwards of about 80% of the surface area of the Earth. In the crew library we have lots of old books with volumes of weather data, and these are the ones we've gone through for data digitizing to improve records around the world. We've got lots of Antarctic expeditions in the early part of the 20th century, and this one is Scott's expedition. So it contains all the temperature, pressure, other weather measurements that were taken both at the bases along on the coast and on his ill-fated expedition to the South Pole. At the height of the day, it was 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Then at the same time as the measurement of the wind direction and the force of the wind, the final measurement was the amount of cloud. And this particular one is a yearbook from St. Petersburg from Russia, and so it contains measurements taken in Russia in 1847. So here we have June 1847 at Ekaterinburg. So to go further back, then you've got to look at proxy records of climate. And we're really after here records that tell you things about the year-to-year timescales, maybe season by season as well. And so some of the best proxy records of past temperatures are from trees. There are also good records from ice cores, but obviously they're limited to where the ice caps are. And one of the newest records is corals in the shallow tropical seas. And we can also combine these with other written records about the past, which is where people since the medieval times have written down what the weather was like, what the harvest was like, how bad the winters were. And these can also be put together, obviously in countries which have long written histories. The record is less good than instrumental data, but when you put them all together and try and assign numbers to the earlier period, you find that the warmest century of all in the last millennium was the 20th century, and the coldest was the 17th. So overall, the warming between now and, say, the late 19th century, it's about 0.8 degrees Celsius. So the top 10 warmest years are all from 97 through to 2008, with the exception of 1999.
Climate is now changing faster than the typical lifespan of a human being. So, you know, a human being born today will experience a very different climate when they die to the climate they experience when they're born.